Hey everyone, just a heads up, this is a continuation of the video Mortal Kombat and Shareverse, so watch that to get more context on this video. Anyway, let's begin. On the night of April 20th, 2015, a small fire was dying down in a forest. It came from a shack with a figure being covered by the burned ruins. A group of one might mistake to be angels descended from the skies and recovered the body. In actuality, they were knights from a kingdom in the sky, Equestria. I am not a brony, I'll get to that after this cold open. The charred, mangled body, barely alive, stood stiff in a test tube within the main laboratory of the castle. Its queen waited in the lab until the arrival of her friend had appeared. It was Raven, who came with a shard in her hand. She told Twilight that the creation of her new weapon would be so powerful, she speculated it would pierce the heavens.
Oh, that's why they call it that.
Alright, with that out of the way, let's get into some questions. Even though I have never seen a full episode of My Little Pony Friendship is Magic, nor do I want to, I always wanted to incorporate Twilight Sparkle somewhere in Shareverse, as a morally gray yet antagonistic character. From 2012 to 2013, you could not escape the MLP fandom. Nobody wanted to be affiliated with bronies, absolute subhumans that sometimes favor the Third Reich. But with so much attention, the Astral Souls of the property became targets to everyone. Equestria was a victim to several invasions in which other Astral Souls, including myself OC, had to rescue the kingdom time and time again. The personal servant to Princess Celestia, Twilight Sparkle, became paranoid that even though the country had allies, one day they too could become threats. Within a year, she increased her range in studies of magic, becoming an alicorn, and respectfully overthrowing Celestia in terms of power, becoming the true queen of Equestria. In fact, in 2014, Twilight appeared as the antagonist role of a storyline featuring Sonic as her foil. A battle of cringe fandoms, if you will. What makes her gray is that much like Raiden at the time, she saw all outsiders as a threat, but loved and cared for everyone in her country, trying to find peace in a constantly hostile world. And with Melina's body, she found a new toy to add to her arsenal. Okay, so what about Raven? Well, I already made a video on that, so check that out. For the sake of importance, she became best friends with Twilight in 2010 for having many traits in common: telekinesis, bookworms, and they're played by the same voice actress. On this particular day, she was walking into Equestria with a shard in her hand to present to the Queen. This was one piece of the Shining Ray. Nobody knows where the Shining Ray came from, nor how many shards exist. In fact, those who are bounded by one usually grant the user different abilities from one another. However, it is speculated that it only affects the Astral Souls in the Warner alignment. Since Mortal Kombat is owned by Warner Brothers, Twilight theorized that Melina would have a strong attachment to the shard. After some experimentation, Melina's body became a weapon for Equestria. Specifically, it granted her the skills and abilities of the slasher guest characters from the recent MK games. A glove that resembled Freddy's. Instead of knives, it was machetes for Jason, but most notable, her Predator gear. A Yaoja helmet with multiple visors, equipped with a shoulder caster, and a gauntlet on her other arm to trigger timed explosives. But even with all of her new tech, Melina was not healed from her physical wounds. Her head was still a skull, and her stomach had a hole to her innards. Which begs the question, how can she see if she has no eyes? On top of that, she had amnesia from the failed assassination, her mind reverted to her primal Turcotan genetics, and her lungs were damaged. The only thing she could remember was a silhouetted figure besides a fire. With her being so manipulative to control, Twilight found a great opportunity to get back at foes. Pierce the Heavens is a part of a collection of other storylines called units. What's unique about Pierce the Heavens compared to the others is that the unit storylines primarily focus on a group of characters achieving a similar goal. Pierce the Heavens primarily focuses on one character, and one might argue it focuses more on its antagonist. The first major instance of the storyline comes on April 25th. Special Forces were celebrating the victory from the Shinnok invasion of that year, though many members were either afraid or flat out open about the fact they didn't like Raiden's darker tone. He was tired of Earthrealm constantly being a target for other realms to pick on, and that they need to be more forceful in fighting back. Ignoring the fact that Cassie Cage, a literal teenager, beat the shit out of an Elder God just a few weeks ago. Inspired by his appearance in the 3D era games, he reflected his ideologies by wearing black, changing his electricity to red, and threatened Liu Kang and the Katana clone to not fuck with Earthrealm by offering them Shinnok's decapitated head. And so Liu Kang made Shinnok's head an energy source for his castle. And remember, Shinnok's an Elder God, so he's barely alive and he's not getting paid. Not only that, but Raiden forbid any communications with Outworld, despite leaving their Khan, Kotal, on mutual terms. However, maybe Raiden should have reconsidered that action due to the coming events. Twilight's first mission she ordered Mileena, again on the 25th, was to test her abilities on a bunch of people Twilight didn't like. With her Shining Ray attributes, she mauled through several defenses and bases, all to serve the Queen. One of these bases had connections to Special Forces, and when the recently promoted combat kids answered their distress call, they were greeted with a literal and figurative ghost of their past. Mileena was able to breeze through all of them, and I know what you're thinking. Cassie was able to defeat a corrupted god. Surely she wouldn't have a problem fighting a zombified Edenian Turcotan hybrid with her Deus Ex Machina glowy powers. Well, here's a little fun fact. Power scaling in Mortal Kombat never matters. One day you could kill Motaro with one punch, the next you could die from mocap. Plus, the sheer shock Cassie had when fighting meant she wasn't at her A game. Mileena was ordered to retreat, sparing the 14s. But word spread everywhere that the ex-Empress of Outworld was alive and running around in Earthrealm. And I meant everywhere. Kotal was in disbelief since he watched her die front and center, Katana continued to mope harder in hiding, the Revenants found an easy target to go after, and Raiden, well, he actually knew she was alive. More on that later. Twilight was shocked to know how many enemies and attention her new toy was getting. Additionally, she began to hear about the uproar going on at Outworld, believing that their Emperor had lied to his people, which just so happened to become the perfect opportunity for NetherRealm to strike. With such low morale, Kotal did not anticipate the invasion of the Revenants and their minions. They believed if they conquered two realms, then Earthrealm would not be able to defend for themselves, even toying with the idea of destroying it for the funsies. Liu Kang did offer Kotal the option to either die trying to defend his realm, or be a chicken and retreat to Earthrealm. Considering his closest men were retreating, Kotal had to join them. The Revenants had taken over Outworld, and together with NetherRealm, using Shinnok's powers, the realms became one, now called Nether Outworld. Now evicted from his realm, Kotal was alone in Earthrealm alongside his bros and child. But he kept his dogma of not receiving Special Forces help and keeping it his own problem. Little did they know the rumors of a psychopath would be upon them. Mileena's next goal the next weekend was finding where Kotal's hideout was and killing him. She did succeed with the first half, but not so much with the second, considering the fact that she was going up against an ex-emperor, a collection of souls, a Saurian, whatever the hell Farah and Tor are, and a cowboy. She was greatly wounded and retreated once more. So when that plan failed, Twilight immediately ordered her people to construct a portal to Nether Outworld, so Mileena could kill the Revenants instead, even though they were already dead, but whatever. She minced through so many Onis, even some of the Revenants had an issue trying to tackle her. And you know damn well that Stryker failed immediately. However, Jade was able to capture her and sent her to a private section of the castle. There, the real Katana spoke face to face with her clone after 20 years of silence. She did not want to kill her, but neither help her. Eventually, the other Revenants caught up to Mileena, but surprisingly, she decided to save her retreating sister from the Katana clone, able to tell the difference between the two in a near-death state. Ultimately, Liu Kang had to step in and defeat Mileena once and for all, destroying all of her electric life support systems and dragging her body back to Earthrealm. Twilight, losing connection, decided to give up on the idea. But the most crazy part is that everything I brought up, Kotal losing Outworld, the merging of realms, Mileena fighting both the Kotal Rangers and the Revenants, all happens in the span of 24 hours. The next week rolls around, and Mileena's comatose body had been discovered by Raiden. Instead of informing Special Forces, he takes it upon himself to get rid of this demon for good. He summons his staff and begins to electrocute her body, but the energy is just enough to jolt her machinery to boot up. Raiden, shocked by this, does nothing as Mileena rises. She stabs him hard in the gut before walking away. Raiden obviously survives, but he admits to himself that she is a dangerous weapon that should be in nobody's hands. So how about we have a pirate navigator give Mileena a shot? Nami is a very greedy person, we can all admit that, but she loves the popularity. When she hears that the anime adaptation of Kill la Kill is getting the spotlight over at Tanami, she grows jealous. She begins to look for a way to get rid of the Astro Souls from the original incident the anime is based on. Of course, she wasn't going to kill them, but she could manipulate somebody else to do it for her. With what little robotics she carried over from the Robonami arc from Fox Kids Special the past year, here's a plug, she tried to look up a perfect hitman for the job and at a cheap price no less. For some reason, Melina's name came up through the news, and it was for free. Anyway, Nami hacks some messages to Melina's helmet to go kill Ryuko and her close to loved ones. Melina then went on to kill Ryuko and her girlfriend, and her sister, maybe girlfriend. It didn't stop there. She killed everyone else from Kill la Kill. Even Ragio, her assistant, I forgot her name, and Nui. Even though they were already dead, they were on Earth for community service. All Melina did was bring these three back to Hell's Prison, where they were already serving their sentence. Once this deed was done, Nami tried to brush away the evidence, confronting Melina in order to erase the footage of her killings inside her helmet. The two fought, but it ended in a stalemate. But this would mark the beginning of their heated rivalry against the two. Carmilla was aware of the fate of her friend and began to blame herself for putting Melina in the situation. The other members of the coffee crew tried to cheer her up, saying otherwise. She concluded if she got her into this mess, she could get her out of it. Because of her infamous actions, Melina was able to be tracked pretty easily, now as an independent not taking any orders from Equestria. Her records shown that she was in Manhattan. That was going to be the moment for Carmilla to remedy this whole situation. The three of them searched all over the borough, but they couldn't find any trace of their former friend. It turns out she was near the Disney store in Times Square, and she was getting into some heat with one of its employees, who Melina immediately recognized. Her assassin. Reminder, Kari's Gatomon has the Digicrystal inside of her. She could digivolve into her alternate forms, and in 2012, she became the Astro co-owner for the Disney alignment. For more information on that, watch both the Digimon seasonal reviews and Disney Fighting Evolution. Anyway, flashback to April 20th. By this point, there were some rumors going around in Outworld that Melina was still alive, and Kotal didn't kill her. In order to prove his people wrong, Kotal had his men check the waters to find the body. When they didn't find anything, they concluded that Melina's body was either eaten by a large sea creature, or it had sunken deep into the waters. Raiden had his doubts, however. He knew that both Katana and Jade were still alive. He suspected Melina's holy gene activated as well, and was hiding in Earthrealm. He believed that she was in affiliation with another alignment, since Mortal Kombat is in the Coral and Warner alignment. Well, he was right about the suspicion, but he accused the wrong alignment. He believed she was seeking refuge in the most prominent alignment of the time, the Disney alignment. Raiden knew Melina could be a threat again, and when talking to the co-owner Lilithmon, he forcefully demanded that she could retrieve either the body or capture her alive. Keep in mind, in 2015, the Disney alignment was in a civil war with itself. So when Miss Lilith hears this bizarre accusation that she is hiding someone she has never met, she got angry and told Raiden to fuck off. Before he left, he threatened if she doesn't bring Melina to him in 24 hours, he would destroy the parks. This put her into a panic since if he did destroy everything, that would be an instant win for Neo Disney. She had to find Melina, and fast. She got to researching who she was and noticed she had good ties with Carmilla in the past. Thankfully, Lilithmon knew Carmilla outside of work from past storylines, and the fact her Chun-Li persona did have a background cameo in Wreck-It Ralph. That meant her contact information was fairly recent in the Disney archives. Later that night at Carmilla's house, she begged her for Melina's location, addressing the current situation she was in. In an action that she would later regret, Carmilla caved in. That night, Lilithmon attempted to make Melina dead again, but it was a rushed job and people were going to hear the commotion anyway. That's why she left without the body in hand. The next morning, she told Raiden to meet her at the crime scene, but when they got there, the body was gone. Raiden was just about to leave and destroy the Orlando parks, but she offered him a stick with bloodstains on it. She asked if he could get it analyzed to prove that she wasn't lying. He then takes the stick to Special Forces' research department and has the blood analyzed. It was in fact a mixture of Turcotin and Edenian DNA. Raiden kept this revelation to himself, in order to not make the other realms panic about an ex-con still running around. But that secret wouldn't last long, of course. When Lilithmon encounters her failed target again 3 weeks later, she determined to finish the job once and for all. She then digivolved into her Mega form with her maximum power, Mastamon. Because she has the Digicrystal, she has the full code of both her light and dark forms, easily able to DNA digivolve by herself. Mastemon wiped the floor with Melina, though in her defense, she was still in shock from recollecting her memories. In a fitting manner, she dumped her body into the Manhattan Harbor, watching her sink below. Another week passes, Melina's mechanical equipment enters its reserve power. Now being fully conscious and regained her memories, she knows what she has to do. But not without paying a visit first. Using these spare portals to Equestria, she began to attack all of Twilight's guards. However, Twilight herself seemed to foretell this would happen, what with her paranoia towards outside allies. She ordered all of her men to cease their attack and let the intruder fight the Queen head-on. When Melina got to the throne, Twilight was ready to fight her, showing off never-before-seen true strength as a queen. However, the Shining Ray power was far too great than any book Twilight had read. After beating her around the room, Melina didn't want to kill Twilight, and so she walked away. All of the guards in the throne were too shocked to do anything. Once more, she waited another week, spending it all on planning to avenge her near-death situation. And finally, that day came on May 22nd, 2015. Melina bursted onto the streets of Main Street, USA, fighting and critically wounding any employee that stood in her way. Original Disney or Neo, it didn't matter. However, as she continued to fight, she sensed that the co-owner was not at her office, so she retreated. She went to the one place she could be, her sister's house. Turns out she was right. Lilithmon rented the place out from Katana because she knew Melina would show up. Oh, by the way, Melina knew where Katana's exiled house was since the 2000s. But the two had a rematch, both of their heads fully focused on combat. And this time I used a K in my script. Wow. But with a clear mind, Melina excelled through Mastemon's defenses and began stabbing, choking, and tearing her armor outside of her sister's house. But Mastemon wouldn't die, because, Digimon code. Thankfully, Carmilla came to her aid and began to profusely apologize. She explained that her death was the only way to preserve original Disney, but more importantly, her sacrifice would probably be in vain. This broke Melina. If she were to die, nothing would change. Her mere existence never mattered at all. Through Carmilla's comfort, she deactivated her Shining Ray form for the first time, finally healing her wounds after a month of keeping them. But she instantly fell unconscious. Both Carmilla and the badly damaged Mastemon had a quick chat with what to do with Melina. They agreed to put her in a secluded hospital for the time being, before parting ways. When Melina woke up just a few hours later, the past month felt like a dream. She didn't know where she was, and there were footsteps getting louder and closer. When the door opened, a man she was not familiar with came up to her. He was also recovering from personal wounds. He came up to her with a stack of paper, saying her inclusion in his independent army would be such an important asset, but more importantly, as his bodyguard, she could finally find her purpose. And so, that was Pierce to Heavens and the start of Melina's redemption arc, but more importantly, where everybody was after the Shinnok invasion of 2015, as well as their immortal enemies. But there are so many questions to be brought up. Who's the guy that's giving Melina an offer? What will Kotal do now that his realm is gone? And will Liu Kang conquer Earthrealm or destroy it? And who will stop him? All those answers and more will be addressed in Coral Knights. Before closing this massive storyline out, I want to address that Pierce to Heavens that you just witnessed was heavily edited. Originally, it was a homage to Kill la Kill, Sexless Sex, cause I'm bad at originality. It was basically the plot of the anime, where myself OC would be in the same situation as Ryuko, Twilight would be Satsuki, and Celestia being Ragyo. It was a disaster, cause I'm bad at originality. Melina's Shining Ray form and all of her antics were still a concept in 2015, and those would still lead into Coral Knights, but that was its own storyline and it didn't even have a name. So for the revision, I decided to take Sexless Sex's position in units and replace it with this one. Not only that, I would later use the storyline as a homework assignment in my freshman year of college, albeit heavily edited to avoid reusing characters from Mortal Kombat, My Little Pony, and Digimon. What a weird trio. I put the paper in the description of this video, and you could see that in the original idea, myself OC would have been in the place of Carmilla, and the reason why Lilithmon kills Melina is that she saw her as a bad influence for him. Of course, that makes no sense, so that's why the revision has Raiden accusing her of hiding Melina's body. Anyway, let's wrap this up. Next time will be the origin story to the main character of Coral Knights, and that would lead into that storyline. If you like this video, consider liking and subscribing to the channel. Until then, I'm AJ, and I'll see you all in the next one.